Hey everybody, Neil here, Horse Thief Craft Society. Got my main man Jake, and we're here to talk about the Colonel, which is a barrel-aged wheat wine with ginger and lemon added. This is a really cool beer because I've been wanting to do this for years, like since we even began opening Horse Thief. I was kind of inspired by some trips down to Kentucky where some friends would be drinking Ale 8, which is a fruity ginger ale mixed with Maker's Mark, and it's just this cocktail that kind of fell in love with. And so I've wanted to do this beer, just never had a chance to. I've talked to Jake about it for the past year or so now, even longer than that.
Yeah.
And we were finally able to pull it off, and it's pretty amazing. It's really complex, and there's no one really doing this style of beer. I don't know. I mean, there's no like tasting notes that you can compare with another brewery. I've never seen wheat wine aged in bourbon barrels and then trying to figure out the ginger and lemon aspect to pick up some of those secondary notes. So why don't we talk a little bit about the barrel aging program that we're doing and how we kind of brewed this beer.
Yeah, so I remember it was about 2 years ago that you told me the concept for the beer that you had, and just thinking about how to execute it, I was like, for some reason wheat wine popped into my head. So it took a little while to fit it into our overall program, which has been, a fun thing to be working on over the last 2 years. We're shooting for roughly quarterly, 4 releases a year of our barrel-aged beer. So we're working with our limited space here and trying to squeeze as many barrels as we can. So we got 18 barrels in here right now, and a mix of bourbon, tequila, and wine barrels.
Yeah.
So we're able to do like the classic bourbon barrel stouts, and then mess around with some other fun stuff. And the wine barrels are cool because we get to do mixed fermentation stuff. So rep beers, we'll have some sour beers coming out of those, and just a good overall mix and experimental stuff like this.
Yeah.
So, and like how you're saying about wheat wines in general.
So a lot of people aren't familiar with wheat wines. So like maybe you can break that down real quick.
Yeah, for sure. I think most people know barley wines. Mm-hmm. So you got a really strong ale brewed to the strength of a wine, where the name comes from. Wheat wine is going to be kind of a take on that, but it was almost half wheat, 40% wheat.
Okay. So
gives it really good body, and that weedy flavor to the beer. But what's also cool is that it's a pale beer. There's no colored malts. Mm-hmm. And the beer developed a lot of caramel flavor just from the barrels and a long boil. We boiled it for 3 hours. Versus
normally one.
Yeah, it was a normal one. So it caramelizes the sugars in the kettle, and then it concentrates the sugars, so we can end up with stronger beer. And we came in at 11%, so it's certainly a strong one.
Yeah,
and
that's before noon, so we're
good. Like Neil said, that wheat wines, it's not an easy style to find. So I honestly don't even know if I've drank one, but it was a style I was familiar with. I know Goose Island has or at least had done a Bourbon County wheat wine at one point. So I was familiar with the style, and I thought, like, let's give a crack at it. It'd be a good, somewhat neutral but still strong, flavorful base, so we can work on these other ingredients that you had, the ginger and the lemon. Mm-hmm. And I'm really happy that we chose that style, and it ended up being the perfect base.
Yeah.
So,
you did good.
Yeah.
Let's dig into it. Yeah.
All right.
I guess one of the challenges that we had in when you're trying to make a whiskey cocktail inspired beer, you need to get some residual sweetness from the ginger ale that would, and then but the whiskey, the bourbon has to kind of stand out. And that's what's really cool about how Jake put this all together, was that you get the bourbon up front, and then you're supported by the ginger and some of the lemon, some of the citrus.
Totally. And that's actually part of what went into the long aging process of the beer. You know, a year. It's not an extremely long time, but it's definitely longer than I like to go for a lot of bourbon barrel beers. But because, you know, we wanted a bourbon forward, you know, and obviously oak forward beer, you know, it called for a longer aging time. Also, along with just the sweeter base beer, you know, there's a lot that we need to, a lot of flavors that need to stand up against each other, you know. So
yeah,
let's give it a whirl, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean,
I haven't had it out of the bottle yet.
Yeah,
I really like it out of the bottle.
Cool. Yeah, a lot of those caramel notes up front. You know, like I said, the bourbon and oak. Like, to me, it smells like you can straight up smell bourbon. It's the charred oak. You know,
it almost it seems like it has bourbon in it. Like
yeah,
that's how forward it is.
Yeah, definitely. So I was happy with the way that note developed because, like Neil was saying, with the bourbon cocktail, like let's hit it with bourbon flavors. Like let's make that up front. To me, then, you know, you get that stuff up front, and then it gives way to some caramel sweetness. You know,
yeah.
And the beer is really really full bodied. So, you know, you get the full body of the beer and the sweetness on it.
Yeah.
And then for me, that gives way to the ginger and the lemon on the back end. And even when I taste this beer, like for me personally, I don't get the ginger and lemon on my first couple sips. It takes, like, once the beer warms a couple degrees, and then I've had a couple sips, then it really pops for me. So,
nice.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think it's great. It's complex and interesting. It's totally unique. I've never had a beer like this, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it develops in the bottle a little bit too, and what happens to it down the road.
Yeah,
but and the name's great because we're across from KFC, from Colonel. Yeah,
and you know we're looking at, you know, it's a Kentucky inspired cocktail, so inspired by a Kentucky cocktail. So yeah, I just honestly I love the depth of flavors in this beer, and like with any bourbon barrel beers, I definitely suggest you can open it cold. You know, we had these bottles out for about 10 minutes before we opened it, and then because it's so strong and so flavorful, you definitely want to sip it over, you know, whatever, 30, 40, 60 minutes, and giving it that time to warm and those flavors to open up in the glass. It's really an overall experience, you know, drinking this. And
we should have got Barrel-Aged Steve over here to try it out.
I thought about that for sure. Maybe next time.
It's a regular named Steve that I named Barrel-Aged Steve because he's huge on the barrel-aged beers, and he actually joined Society because of this beer.
Yep.
So welcome, Steve.
Yeah, welcome, Steve. I was really happy to hear that. I figured if we had his stamp of approval,
that's a huge...
It was a success.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, well, great job, Jake. Yeah. This is a hell of a beer again. And
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming up with the concept, and I'm glad that we got to, you know, collaborate on these ideas and you know, and execute them, and it's fun working with you. So cheers to that.
9 years in the making.
Yep. Cheers.
Thank you. All right, guys. Well, that's our show on the Colonel. Thanks for joining, and we'll talk to you soon. A couple of weeks, actually, about Pink Pom Pom for Mother's Day.
Yep.
And
Hefewestern.
And Hefewestern. Yeah, you can have your option of doing cans of Hefewestern or a growler of Pink Pom Pom. So we'll get. And I think I'm going to try to have my mom here to do that episode. So we'll see.
Cool. Can't wait.
Yep. Take care, guys.
Cheers.